If these particular sensations are surfacing, do not stop. You are finally aligning with your destiny. You have been questioning your current reality. You wonder if the isolation, the peculiar shifts, and the quiet internal pulls away from your previous life signify a loss of direction or a spiritual finding. You wake up feeling an immense gap between your spirit and your former ambitions. Objectives that once felt vital now feel entirely foreign. There is a persistent ache that lacks a physical source, just a deep realization that a transformation is inevitable. But consider this. What if that inner friction is a summons rather than a warning? What if your current unrest is a birth, not a funeral? Carl Jung argued that the human psyche avoids straight paths. It communicates through contradictions, internal pressure, and subconscious imagery. Its message never screams. It murmurs through the very feelings we are socialized to ignore. This presentation is dedicated to the part of you that is paying attention, the core that is exhausted by societal chatter but remains ravenous for authentic truth. If you have felt adrift, hesitant, strangely detached, or drawn toward a mystery you cannot articulate, you are not failing. You are finally beginning to hear your own soul speak. Here are the indicators, and if these resonate within your heart, persist. You are on the correct trajectory. Jung famously noted that the ultimate honor is to evolve into your genuine self. Yet he also cautioned that this evolution is rarely a smooth process. The inward quest, the task of individuation, frequently commences in stillness, isolation, and a sense of internal collapse. This happens because the human ego resists surrender. It demands linear strategies, certainties, and a roadmap. However, the spirit operates differently. It navigates via intuition, archetypal symbols, and delicate emotional tides. Consequently, when your former goals dissolve, when you no longer see your reflection in your history, it is not a mark of defeat. It signifies that you have outgrown a version of yourself that became too restrictive. In the realm of Jungian thought, the self, the internal blueprint of totality, initiates its silent coup by stripping away everything counterfeit. The social masks drop first, then the professional roles, then the narratives you previously used for self-definition. It feels chaotic because it is meant to be, but within that chaos, something primordial is waking up, something authentic. You are not falling apart, you are being forged. These symptoms you are experiencing are not evidence of error. They are the validation that a holy process has started. An invisible needle is now orienting inward toward wholeness, toward harmony, toward the aspect of your being that has always known the way. Let us investigate these markers and understand why they are intentional. They represent a dialect, a navigation system that only the spirit can interpret. Sign number 1. The journey starts with friction. It does not begin with epiphany. It begins with a subtle unrest. You wake up and recognize a misalignment. The career that once provided stability now feels like a prison. The social interactions that once comforted you now feel empty. Even your physical appearance feels like a stranger's face. Yet you cannot quite pinpoint the shift. That is because it is not a single event. It is a tectonic, gradual movement of your entire being. Jung labeled this enantiodromia, the psyche's method of restoring health by moving toward the opposite extreme. If you spend years pursuing external validation, conforming to expectations, or wearing a facade, your inner self will eventually revolt, not with anger, but with a profound hollow stillness where passion used to reside. This is not a loss of path. It is the genesis of a far more profound one. Your subconscious has detected a falsehood, that the life you constructed was never intended for the individual you are becoming. Thus, it begins to dismantle. Your intentions, your routines, and your cravings start to fray, not as a penalty, but as a preparation. This friction is not a barricade, it is a portal. But since the portal opens inward, most people miss it. Most individuals retreat at this stage. They distract themselves from the ache. They label it a midlife crisis. They grip the familiar even tighter. But if you resist the temptation to flee and choose to listen, you will detect it. A murmur beneath the chaos. a summons that whispers, "Persist, do not repair what is decaying. Let it shatter because your future requires more room. Let your unease be your teacher." Not all suffering is a curse. Some pain is a herald. The spirit communicates in metaphors, and this void you feel is not a vacuum, it is a clearing. The empty space is where your truth will eventually blossom. Sign number 2. You feel a withdrawal from what used to define you. When friction first strikes, it shakes your foundation, but it continues further. Shortly after, you feel a magnetic pull away from the titles that once grounded you, the roles you inhabited, the high achiever, the martyr, the pleaser, the stoic one. They no longer fit your spirit. They feel like borrowed costumes from a forgotten play. You navigate your hours with a peculiar sense of distance, performing rituals that no longer nourish your heart. And though you attempt to maintain the facade, an internal force resists. This is not apathy or a lack of discipline. It is a psychological transition. Jung theorized that the ego must eventually bow to the self, the core essence of your humanity. When that transition starts, the social pillars that once supported your identity begin to buckle. This dissolution is terrifying to the ego, which thrives on predictability. But the spirit asks, who are you without the labels, without the praise, the duties, or the established definitions? This is not a breakdown, but a breakthrough, a quiet internal expansion that goes unnoticed by the world, but you feel it in your marrow. Suddenly, you lose the drive for things that once consumed you. You begin distancing yourself from people whose frequency feels dissonant or false. Solitude becomes a sanctuary. Old ambitions no longer sparkle. You might even mourn your past self, not because she was bad, but because she is finished. Space is the sacred womb where the true self is born. Yet this release does not offer immediate clarity, only a vast openness where certainty used to live. That openness is divine. It is not a desert. It is a garden. It is the fertile ground from which your genuine existence begins to emerge. So if you feel like an immigrant in your own life, if you feel your personality softening and dissolving, that is not a setback. That is the path revealing itself. Trust the breaking. What is being stripped away was never the ultimate truth of your being. It was merely the scaffolding for the temple that is now rising. Do not retreat to safety just because it is known. Keep moving because a deeper reality is surfacing, and it requires the old layers to shed first. Sign number 3. The external world no longer matches your internal growth. This becomes undeniable once you have started discarding the personas that no longer serve you. As you drop the identities of the peacemaker or the striver, you perceive reality through a new lens. But here is the irony. While your inner landscape expands and intensifies, your external world seems stuck in time. You are surrounded by others, yet you feel fundamentally unrecognized. You participate, you smile, you work, but there is a strange detachment, as if you are observing your own life through a foggy window. This is not a clinical sadness. This is a spiritual migration. Jung described the rift that occurs when the hidden mind begins to surface. It generates a symbolic friction. The outside world no longer echoes your inside truth. You might find yourself becoming more sensitive, more intuitive, more attracted to metaphors and nature. You notice details others miss, the hidden sadness in a greeting, the gravity of a dream, the way your gut reacts before logic intervenes. Yet none of this is mirrored in your current environment. Your daily small talk feels shallow. Your career feels like a shadow. Even your closest bonds might feel like echoes of a person who is no longer there. It is easy here to believe something is broken, to doubt your intuition, your path, or your craving for depth. But Jung would argue this friction is essential. It is a sacred psychological division. The external world must lose its attraction so the internal self can take the lead. If your old life still satisfied you, you would never seek the new. But now, what was once a home feels like a cage, and that transition is proof of your expansion. Let things be silent for a while. Let the gaps soften your edges. This is not the conclusion of your journey. It is the bridge to a new existence. You are no longer meant to fit in. You are meant to align. So, if the world feels out of sync, Do not escape it. Observe what your spirit is saying beneath the quiet, the distance, and the solitude. That is the vacuum where your real life is taking shape. Persist. Sign number 4, you are being led by a force you cannot yet articulate. After the disconnect matures, when the outer reality no longer mirrors your depth, a quieter guidance takes over. You stop pushing, forcing, or demanding instant results. Instead, you find yourself following a subtle vibration. Not a literal voice, but a physical pull, a magnetic frequency beneath the daily noise. And though it ignores logic, it feels more reliable than any plan. This is the stage Jung described as shifting focus from the ego to the self. When our inner archetypes wake up, we begin to navigate by spiritual vision rather than physical sight. The road ahead is no longer marked by career ladders or 5-year strategies. It is revealed through moments of deep resonance, a chance encounter, a line in a poem, a sudden instinct to change direction without reason. You have entered the realm of the symbolic, and yes, it feels ungrounded. You have left the familiar shore. The old you is gone. The world feels hollow. And yet, nothing solid has arrived to replace it. But in that stillness, a new frequency starts. You might find yourself seeking ritual, not out of habit, but necessity. You write in your journal not for logic, but for communion with your essence. You seek the woods, the silence, the rhythm of the natural world, anything that bypasses the rational brain. This is not a regression. This is a homecoming. Carl Jung viewed this stage as a threshold, the liminal zone between egoic dominance and soulful existence. It is the state of the chrysalis, no longer a crawling thing, not yet a winged one, a holy middle ground where the ego is laid to rest. Not in failure, but in honor. Here you feel the first movements of something ancient. The self, the architecture of your wholeness. It does not issue orders. It speaks through synchronicities, through nighttime visions and gentle nudges. Your task now is not to solve the puzzle. It is to remain present, to yield to the process. Because even though you cannot label it yet, your guide is real. It is not a delusion or a temporary state. It is your soul taking its very first breath in a world that finally matches your heart. Now, having felt this soft but persistent pull, consider which of these markers have appeared in your life recently. Has the friction been louder lately, or have the masks started to slip away? Have you felt that quiet invitation to stop controlling the outcome, even if the destination is still hidden? If you recognize these patterns, understand that this is not your collapse. It is your blooming. You are not behind schedule. You are becoming. This phase is divine. Do not try to sprint through it. Instead, acknowledge it. Create a small ritual tonight. Not to find answers, but to celebrate the mystery growing within you. Write a note to the person you are becoming. Let this moment define the boundary between your past and your emerging future. It is a signal to your psyche that you are ready, because the path forward is rarely logical. Often, the path is felt in the gut, in the breath, and in the gaps between your thoughts. Your primary responsibility now is simply to remain attentive. Listen with courage, with stillness, and with affection for the mystery. The quest is not a sprint. Your spirit knows the route even when your logic is blind. You are not lost. You are in transition. This transition is not a mistake. It is the sacred vessel of your rebirth. Jung taught that the subconscious moves in shadows before it reveals the light. So if your existence feels strange, silent, or vague, remember you are being readied, not discarded. You are not finishing, you are starting. And if this message resonated, if any sign struck a chord, keep moving. The signs were never meant to scream. They were meant to lead you home. This is your threshold. This is your evolution. This is Winds of Thought, where we explore the hidden maps of the psyche through Jungian insights. If this spoke to you, remember to like the video, as you are not traveling this road alone. To truly understand the weight of this transition, we must look at what Jung called the second half of life. He believed that the first portion of our existence is dedicated to the ego building a career, establishing a family, and gaining a foothold in the social world. but the second half is dedicated to the soul. If you are feeling this friction early, it simply means your soul is impatient. It is demanding that you stop living for the expectations of others and start living for the blueprint inscribed in your very dia. This transition often feels like a crisis because it requires the death of the hero persona you have worked so hard to maintain. You are moving from the doing phase of life into the being phase. This shift is not supported by a culture that values constant productivity and external growth. Therefore, you must be your own sanctuary. You must learn to validate your own internal movements when the world offers no applause. Consider the metaphor of the alchemical process, which Jung studied extensively. Before the gold can emerge, the base metal must undergo the nigredo, or the blackening. This is a stage of decay, darkness, and confusion. Without the nigredo, there is no purification. Your current feelings of being lost are simply the nigredo phase of your own psychological alchemy. The heat of your life's challenges is melting down the rigid structures of your ego so that the gold of the self can eventually be poured into a new, more expansive form. Do not fear the darkness of the crucible. The fire that feels like it is consuming you is actually the fire that is refining you. As you move forward, pay attention to your dreams. Jung believed dreams were the direct language of the unconscious, providing the compensatory information the ego lacks. If your waking life feels dry and hollow, your dreams may be vibrant, symbolic, and full of life. They are trying to restore the balance. Keep a notebook by your bed. Even a fragment of an image can be a breadcrumb, leading you back to your center. Trust that there is a deep intelligence at work within you, one that spans generations and archetypes. You are part of a long lineage of seekers who have walked this misty path. You are not an anomaly. You are a participant in the universal human story of awakening. Finally, remember that patience is your greatest ally. The soul does not operate on a clock or a calendar. It moves with the seasons and the tides. You cannot rush your own blooming any more than you can rush the sunrise. Allow yourself the grace to be in between. This liminality is where the most profound magic happens. It is the gap between the inhale and the exhale. It is the silence between the notes of the song. In that space, you are truly free. You are no longer bound by who you were, and you are not yet restricted by who you will become. Embrace the mystery, honor the ache, and keep walking. Your future self is already there, waiting to welcome you home to the life you were always meant to live. This is the path of the soul. This is the shadow's gift. Keep going. You are exactly where you need to be. Everything is unfolding in perfect, divine timing. Trust the silence. Trust the change. Trust yourself. You are the seeker and the sought. You are the map and the traveler. Your journey has only just begun, and the destination is more beautiful than you can currently imagine. Stay steady, stay open, stay true. The light is coming, and it will be all the brighter for the shadows you have braved. This is your time. This is your awakening. Welcome to the truth of who you are. This is Winds of Thought. Like and subscribe to join our community of seekers as we navigate the depths of the human experience together. Your journey is our journey. You are never alone.